Good morning, dear students. I am Arvind Dobriyal, and you all are welcome to the e-learning portal of Cambridge International School, Daswa. So, dear students, we are reading the supplementary reader, that is Snapshots. So, the chapter that we will read today is Ranga's Marriage, written by Masti Venkatesha Iyengar. So, before starting the chapter, let's have a quick recap of the poem The Laburnum Top, written by Ted Hughes. The poet describes his experience of what he witnesses in the laburnum tree. It begins by describing how the leaves of the trees are yellow. Moreover, he notices that tree top is still and remains silent even in the month of September. Due to the autumn season, the tree has lost all its leaves and the seeds are on the ground. Most noteworthy, the poet uses yellow to describe both the leaves' color and the sunlight. Over here, yellow represents silence, death, and beauty. Thus, he uses this color to describe the whole setting very perfectly. After that, he notices that the death like scene of the tree comes to an end when a goldfinch bird perches on it. The tree makes a sudden chirrup sound upon the bird's arrival. He compares the quickness, speed, and alertness of the bird to that of a lizard. When she starts moving towards the thickness of the branch, the nestlings start chirping and flapping their wings. Thus, due to this movement, the tree also starts shaking and thrilling. We notice how the poet gives two contrasting scenarios while describing the tree. First was that it was death like and then it gains life after the bird lands on it. Further, the poet finally realizes that the goldfinch bird is the engine of her family. When she brings food for her little ones, she moves to the end of the other branch. He describes the bird's appearance. It has a stripped face which is dark in color. After that, her body is yellow and thus blends in with the yellow leaves of the tree. Finally, after reaching the branch end, she makes a rather sweet chirping sound. The poet compares this sound with the whispering as she flies away in the limitless sky. Thus, after the bird leaves the tree, the laburnum tree once again becomes silent and deathlike. To sum up the laburnum top, we learned about the sweet and nurturing relationship between the tree and the bird and how they both play such important roles in their lives. So first of all, I would like to tell you something about the author. Masti Venkatesha Iyengar was born in the year 1891 at Hanganhalli in Kolar district of Karnataka in a Tamil language speaking family. He spent his early childhood in Masti village. He obtained a master's degree in English literature in 1914 from Madras University. After joining the Indian Civil Service, known as the Mysore Civil Service in the days of the Maharaja of Mysore, he held various positions of responsibility in different parts of Karnataka, rising to the rank of district commissioner. After 26 years of service, he resigned in 1943 as a protest when he did not get the post equivalent to a minister, which he felt that he deserved, and a junior was promoted ahead of him. A prolific writer, he wrote more than 123 books in Kannada and 17 books in English language. He won the Gyanpith Award in 1983 for his novel Chikavira Rajendra. The story was about the last Raja of Kodagu. He died on his 95th birthday in 1986. Since 1993, an award in his name, the Masti Venkatesha Iyengar Award, is presented to well-known writers from Karnataka. The story depicts the life in Indian villages in the past when child marriage was a common practice. Ranga's marriage is an interesting story of how a person manipulates to get a young boy married to an 11-year-old girl in a village. The story dates back to the early days of British rule when English was not used in a big way. Rangappa, the son of a village accountant, returns from Bangalore after his studies. His homecoming after 6 months make a big event. The curious villagers gather outside Ranga's house to see how much the boy is changed. But they see no change in the boy. The narrator discusses the issue of marriage with Ranga. He talks to him to hear his ideas about marriage. He resolves to get the boy married to a very young and immature 11-year-old girl, Ratna. He seeks the support of Shastri's astrology to bring Ratna around. And Ranga forgets his idealism and settles down happily. The main theme of this story is a conflict between traditional thought and modern thought. It is shown in the form of the acceptance of arranged marriage. Arranged marriage is old fashioned and Ranga strongly believes in this. He also believes that the people who truly love each other should be married. He also opposes marrying someone young. The conflict occurs when Ranga, against his rationality, falls in love with Ratna, an 11-year-old girl, and finally gets married to her. Another theme of this story is the situation of society, how people give importance to astrologers and their views. The education sector of society is always under pressure from the orthodox views and opinions. Now, the explanation of page number 16. The lesson revolves around Ranga, the village accountant's son, who had just come back from Bangalore. At the news of his arrival, the villagers gather at his home to analyze if he had changed or not and what is his perception about marriage. Everyone was so excited because during those days, not everyone used to get a chance to go to cities for studying. The narrator expects the readers to be questioning the simplicity of the title Ranga's Marriage. He feels readers might be thinking of fancier titles like Ranganath Vivaha, Ranganath Vijaya, or Girija Kalyana. He clarifies that although he had options of keeping such elaborate names, but the reason why he chose the basic and casual one is because the story is all about Ranga. He lived in a village called Hoshali in Mysore. Not many people know of it, and the narrator does not blame them because there is no trace of it in the geography books. Even the Englishmen have no idea about this place, but they are also not to be blamed because our citizens too are completely ignorant about his village. He refers to the people as sheep who blindly follow each other and do not use their logic or brain to justify or invent things. At last, he feels the cartographer is also not to be held responsible. As a result, there is no trace of their village on the map. The narrator feels apologetic for getting carried away and deviating from the topic. He then again throws light upon the significance of the village Hoshali. He says it is just as important as Mysore to India, Karigadabu to a festival meal, and filling is to Karigadabu. Thus, he can't highlight its importance anymore. Not only him, but the doctor named Gundabhatta feels the same. The doctor has been to many places except England, but he still loves Hoshali. However, an outsider might contest this, but the narrator claims to stick to his opinion of the place. Then he tells the readers about their special mango trees in the village whose mangoes are famous for their special quality. He once took a fruit at home to make chutney, and everyone suffered from a bad cough after eating it. It was only when he went to see the doctor that he told him about the quality of mangoes of Hoshali. The narrator asks the reader to take a bite and assure that the sourness of the mango will be felt by them till the top of their head, where Brahmrandra is located. Not only the mangoes, everything in and around his village is remarkable. The creeper growing in the pond and its flowers are also special. One can even serve an afternoon meal on its leaves. All you need to do is to grab two leaves when you are on your way to the pond. After speaking highly of his village, the narrator says if anyone wishes to see for himself or herself, one must contact him. He will help them to reach there. Also, he feels that there is no better way to know a place than to visit it. The narrator then brings about a comparison as to how things were different 10 years ago when not many people knew or spoke English. The people did not send their children to big cities like Bangalore to study. Only the village accountant had the courage to send his son to Bangalore. According to the author, that time was very simple. He justifies his claim by telling an incident where he was at Ramarao's house and they had just bought a bundle of firewood from an old lady. Rama told her to come next morning as he did not have any change at that moment. The poor lady did not know the meaning of change and she went away whispering to herself. Neither did the narrator know its meaning. It was only when he went to Ranga's house that he told him. However, 10 years ago, English was not commonly spoken in this village. And when the villagers came to know that Ranga, the accountant's son, was coming home from Bangalore, everyone got excited and rushed to his home to have a glance at him. Fascinated by the crowd, the narrator too went there and asked people as to why they were gathered because he could not see anything entertaining happening there like a monkey performing. A boy without brain shouted loud enough for everyone to hear, and in a rude way, the narrator called him immature. All the people were waiting outside Ranga's house because the place would look like a black hole of Calcutta if they all went inside. By saying this, the narrator means that there were so many people that the house would have fallen short to accommodate them all. Thus, Ranga came outside with a smile on his face. Everyone was so amazed to see that Ranga had not changed a bit after he left 6 months ago. An old lady even went to the extent of running her hand through his chest to check for a sacred thread. However, she went away after confirming that he had not forgotten about his caste. Once the villagers realized that Ranga did not change even after moving to the city, they disappeared as fast as a lump of sugar does in a child's mouth. The narrator waited till the crowd cleared and asked him about his well being. Ranga noticed him and replied with full respect in a traditional way. Ranga had not noticed the narrator in the crowd before that moment. Ranga was very well behaved and well aware as to who could benefit him. He was one of those who could analyze someone's worth rightfully. For How he greeted the narrator, he bent low and touched his feet, thereby seeking his blessings. It was not the present day namaskar where children would do it casually. It was a proper traditional one. The narrator blessed him that he might get married soon and then left. That afternoon, Ranga visited the author with a few oranges, which the narrator thought was quite thoughtful of him. Thinking of how nice Ranga is, the author thought it would be a good deed to have him married to a girl just as nice as him. They chatted for a while and then the narrator asked Ranga about his views on getting married. Ranga expresses that he does not intend on marrying now because he intends on finding the right girl. He cites the example of an officer who got married at the age of 30 to a woman aged 25. Now, since they are both adults, they would understand each other's action and behavior. Whereas, suppose the narrator finds a girl who is very young, she could misunderstand his words or action because she is not mature enough. He even mentions the love story of Shakuntala and Dushyant from Mahabharata and that he would not have fallen in love with Shakuntala if she were too young. In that case, Kalidas's play also would have not existed. That's why he intends on staying a bachelor till he finds a right girl. Here, the narrator introduces us to a new character in this story named Ratna. She is 11 years old and is Ramarao's niece. She had lost both her parents, so her uncle brought her from the big town to his home with him. She had a great voice and could play harmonium and veena. The narrator thought that Ranga and Ratna would make a great pair. Now, dear students, I am going to conclude what we have read today. Today, we have read that the story Ranga's marriage revolves around Ranga, the accountant's son, who got the opportunity to go out of the village to study. The narrator takes us through a journey where he changes Ranga's perception about marriage, how he staged their union with the help of Shastri, and what role English has played in their village. The story begins with Ranga, the accountant's son, comes back to his village Hoshali after 6 months. He had gone to Bangalore to pursue his studies, which, to mention, not many in the village get this opportunity. The whole village gets excited to see Ranga and thus they gather around his home only to see how he would have changed. The narrator has beautifully elaborated about their village Hoshali and how every authority responsible forgot to mention it in the maps. Moving on, he admires Ranga and wants him to get married, but to his dismay, Ranga has very different views about marriage at that time. The narrator stages the union of Ranga and Ratna, who is Ramarao's 11-year-old niece. The girl has a very sweet voice and can play veena and harmonium. On the basis of your understanding the chapter, I have some questions for you. Hope you will do all these questions by yourself. So, till the next class we meet, take care of yourself and keep studying.